like every quarter but that one.
So you the
what's
only
going
one that's gonna
on?
show up tonight,
Have
Bryce?
you?
I've been one once in Cincinnati.
Nothing like waiting till the end, huh?
Beside the ship.
Hey, it's not even quite the end.
There's one more meeting left.
I
I
just,
didn't know what it was.
Time we call the meeting to order. Not seeing anyone for our invocation. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. The items on your desk concerning appropriations present two appropriations that weren't in the packet. The last two, 64-329, 64-330, 64-329, return of fire proceeds to Steve Womack Jr. That's one of those situations where there's a fire and the insurance company by law pays us a percentage of their payoff, and we hold it in order to be sure that the fire damage is cleaned up before we return the check. They're all done, the fire damage is cleaned up. We're not withholding any funds from that. That's the full amount we got from the insurance company. So we went ahead and wrote the check to Mr. Womack for that amount. The $80,506.95 is a progress payment on the Deep Creek Construction Company's rebuild of the 18th Street water line. Jeremy will have a report on that for you later this evening. The statement was presented in the ordinary course of business and was approved by the engineer. We just didn't get it on our appropriations list, so we recommend that for payment also. There are no other changes to the agenda.
We'll start with the approval of the minutes for the April 19th, 2017 meeting.
I'll make a motion we approve them. As presented.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Sacco and seconded by Commissioner Pounds to approve the minutes for the April 19th, 2017 meeting. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Moving on to financial matters, appropriation ordinance number 8.
I got a question on check 64314 and on check 64324. Are those payments for Plaza Movies and the band deposit? Are those going to be reimbursed to the city?
They're paid out of their events budget that we've allowed them based off of what we've brought in from the discussion that we had about the percentage of ad sales and rental fees and everything else.
So
It's paid from that.
where does that grant money go that they got for entertainment? I heard they got a grant, and if you ask them, they say this is coming out of the grant money that somebody gave them.
We did get a grant at the end of last year, I think, that was for the movies, that went towards the movies.
My understanding is that the grants are for the movies,
Yeah,
not so much the music.
not the event, performers.
So that grant money's in our account, and then we're coming out with it. Okay. I'd like to see, I know the other couple of meetings ago, you showed us the income. I'd like to see how the expenses are going on that. I also heard that we picked up another part-time employee.
We were replacing one.
Oh, replacing one? That's why I wanted to know.
Yeah.
Okay, so one left and one back. Okay.
I'll put another report on next time.
I just like kind of keep track of where we're at. I mean, it's good and everything that's going on, don't get me wrong, but I just like to keep track on how we're standing on that.
Well, I agree with you, Sam. I think that's pretty important.
Oh, and one other question I got, on 64305, the dumbbells, is that for the fire department usage?
That comes out of employees.
Yeah, that's employee withholding for them to use dumbbells, and it just filters through from their paychecks.
Is that something we offered the police department too?
Any employee of the city, they get a discount, a lower rate when
Oh, okay,
And
that's
and I
good.
believe they're able to do it sort of pre-tax through that benefit, and so it,
Yeah, you can do that through your,
Ours is,
phone.
okay.
Okay, that's good.
but it's lesser, I think it's $5 a month or something lower if they go through the city, so.
All right, very good, thank you. That's good.
So basically a reimbursement,
A question on 64322, some airport hangar repairs.
Those were something that was in last year's budget, and money was reserved by encumbrance at the end of the year. Ron again can't be here this evening, he's with a family member on a health issue, but those were repair of a hangar door and repair of the roof on one of the hangars. I think he told us about it at the time, it's been a long time, I had forgotten.
Hmm.
That's what
The
that,
full amount was encumbered though last
Okay.
year, so it's actually coming out of.
I see. Well, I mean,
Part of- is that
we just
part
had
of the
that
90?
airport
10.
meeting a couple weeks ago, and I'm surprised maybe it didn't
yeah.
come up then, but this is even prior to that then.
Yeah,
Okay.
Is that part of the 90-10 match then?
no, this is out of our pocket, right?
Right, not part of the
Okay.
grant.
With that, I'll make a motion to accept ordinance 8.
Second?
So moved by Commissioner Sacco and second by Commissioner Parker to approve appropriation ordinance number 8. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. This time, I'd like to open the floor to anyone who'd like to make a public comment.
I would just like to ask a question as a private citizen, not as city engineer. I live on the corner of Fifth and Valley. The last couple of weeks, there has been times that crossing at Valley has been blocked for multiple hours. I don't know if it's a problem, but it looks to me like an ambulance tried to get to that area. They're not gonna get across there, cause it just sits there, it doesn't even move. I didn't know if there was any regulations or anything. I know in other towns I've lived in, the train can only block a crossing for so long. And it's just a concern I've got. I don't have a problem because the tracks are north of me, but they could get to my house in an emergency. But it just looks to me like something, why they're sitting there all day long, I don't know.
It's my understanding that that's sort of, isn't it railroad policy that they're not supposed to be able to block?
I think it's state law.
Okay, state.
I'll look into it.
Which line?
We have a city ordinance on it.
It's both of them, and I think it's, if I know my tracks are right, Santa Fe's on the south, Kyle's on the north, and I would say it's Kyle more than it is Santa Fe, but, because there's one of them got signals, one track doesn't, so.
Is it the one with or without?
Most of the time, it's the one without, so. But I'm just concerned, you know, if somebody had a problem up there and they needed to get the ambulance there, then,
You'd have to reroute up the highway, then come back around.
yeah, they would have to.
Trying to think which
And
one.
maybe they go that way anyway to go up there, but go across the viaduct.
I noticed I was leaving church Sunday and saw that a train was parked, and I mean, I didn't stick around too long, but it seemed odd to me that it was, and I remember just thinking that I didn't think they could stay parked that long, and it wasn't, it was long enough for me to run into
That's
Rosley.
what my thought was, and so,
Yeah.
thank you.
Who could we check on that with, Larry?
Manager for starters here.
Warren Buffett.
Manager. See if that gets somewhere.
It
Yeah.
worked last.
Valley's on the east of Lake, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Warren Buffett won't work this. Long hour.
Oh, shoot.
But, we've had some responsive, replies from the area management of the file before, so we'll see.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Yes, I have a question too.
Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Johnson.
In last week's, or 2 weeks ago, you had a meeting, issued an ordinance to pay for your bond issue for the waste treatment plant out here. And it also said in the paper on Wednesday that you could pay for it with your $10 surcharge on our water bills that we have now. Well, you're gonna pay for the bonds through your ad valorem tax. It says so in your ordinance. So are we creating a slush fund and continuing that bond or that water bill surcharge?
The ordinance-
Because it was there, put on there to pay for the preliminary engineering and engineering out at the waste treatment plant. So have you had a new, maybe I've missed it, a new resolution redirecting where that money goes? What period we're gonna collect it?
I'm under the understanding that that $10 a month is needed to pay the bond.
Well, your ordinance says that you're gonna pay for it with ad valorem tax.
If I may get to the language of the ordinance.
Please do.
It says you're gonna pay for the bond principal and the issuance.
Okay.
Didn't say anything, are you gonna use it to pay the interest? Is that the original, is that what your intent is?
We will have the bond language up in just a moment, Mr. Johnson, and on accordingly. So if I may, just read down part of it. Talking about, that's searchable, but do you know exactly where you're talking about? I know it's in here. Okay, right there, hold on a second. Okay, it says the governing body of the city is authorized by law to issue general obligation bonds to the city to pay the cost of the improvement, and none of such general obligation bonds heretofore authorized have been issued, and the city proposes to issue those bonds. So there we are paying the bonds, and they are, as you know, general obligation bonds, okay? Now, there's some other language here you're probably referring to, or is that what you're talking about?
We'll go down to, I think it's 3 there.
3, the bonds shall be general obligation bonds of the city payable as to both principal and interest from ad valorem taxes which may be levied without limitation as to rate or amount on all taxable property, real and personal, within the territorial limits of the city. The full faith and credit and resources of the city are hereby irrevocably pledged for the prompt payment of the principal and interest on the bonds as the same become due. I think that the heading of the paragraph indicates the meaning intended here. Security for bonds. What we are saying in this paragraph is not that we will use general fund bonds, but that they are payable that way if need be, and that we are pledging to credit of the city. So we plan to use the $10 per month surcharge and apply that directly to the bonds, but for a general obligation bond, in order to get the interest rates that come with that, you have to pledge the credit of the city, and that's what that language is about.
So if I'm understanding it correctly, then the ad valorem taxes would be the safety net if for some reason our calculations about the $10 additional fee is not sufficient. We're not promoting the security of the bonds based on this payment, but rather the safety net underneath that would be supported by the ad valorem taxes if need be.
We are telling the bond buyers that if we have to, we will levy taxes.
Because right now, the tax levy, we have not levied the taxes any higher.
No, and we're not going to.
And we're not going to, and that's what the $10 was to cover.
Exactly.
If
But-
we hadn't had the $10, my understanding was then we would have had to raise the taxes.
Yes, or, which is, just another form of doing it. But the point of this language in the document is to assure bond buyers that if we had to, we would issue or raise taxes, pay for. It's pledging our full faith and credit, it says in there. That's how you get to be a general obligation bond. If you don't do that, and if you say in the bond instead that we are going to use only the money from this water rate increase, then that's a revenue bond, and generally their interest rates are higher for those than for general obligation bonds. So that's why we do it this way. But we are not required by this language to use general fund money.
Makes sense.
That's the way I read it.
Well, if I remember right, when we had that in front of us, I mean, we raised it, what, $5 at first, and then another $5, but the whole point of it was so that we could start doing the engineering, get the facts together. But my thought was, or the way I remember is that extra money was gonna be there, to pay for the bonds.
So we saw the pictures on that from Amber, you might recall, at the time we were doing the ordinance for the meeting before.
Yeah,
That's been the plan all the way along.
yeah, that's what I remember.
Well, when the resolution was passed 3 or 4 years ago to pay for the engineering, that was not part of it. So have you passed a new resolution to inform the public that the $10 fee on your water bill to each water bill you issue is not an equitable assessment of taxes on the thing. For the, you have people that use considerably larger amounts of water and gonna put a larger load on your waste treatment plant than an individual residence. And if that's a $10 fee on every water bill, why then you're kind of sticking it to the individual residents as opposed to people that have, using it as a base on your ad valorem tax. It's been one of the things I've never run into where you paid for the bond out of just a fee that's attached to it, But if that's what you're gonna do, that's fine. Except that I think you ought to pass a resolution so the public knows what they're doing rather than
Would,
go on a tax bill.
certainly the benefit to the public is important. I think that it's been fairly, the benefit of the project is there for the public, but as far as that and the need to do so, my question would be since we're able to assess, my understanding is we're able to charge for the water what we deem to be the most appropriate, and we raised rates with water across a number of communities engaging what they were charging for their water. So essentially we're my understanding, and in my simple mind, we're sort of paying for this project with cash as opposed to needing to go to taxes. And if we're doing this with cash through this fee, then we would, if we're doing that for the resolution, then we would sort of need to pass a resolution for anything that would come out of the budget, because it's, so then wouldn't that be part of the budget that's approved?
Well, depends what end of the budget you're talking about. The water department doesn't get into the state budget. Your bond issue will. It's gonna be part of the budget that goes to the state, and so will the water department, but it's not regulated by the state. That's kind of a slush fund.
We don't have any slush funds on that, everything is strictly accounted for. Our ordinance says effective December 1, 2014, there shall be charged to all consumers of the city's water system a wastewater treatment plant improvement. Excuse me, let me start again. Effective December 1, 2014, there shall be charged to all consumers of the city's water system a wastewater treatment plant improvement sewer service charge in the amount of $10 per meter per month. So that's our authority under the ordinances to make
Then
the
you
charge. And the
passed
rest of it-
another one that I missed out on all the way along.
2014.
The original one was for $5.
Correct.
It was,
2014 was.
Well, and then we added another $5 one, and I remember you being on the commission at that time.
yeah, we did, but I didn't
Okay,
go in back and read the thing that it was gonna be used to pay for the
okay.
bond issue, so, which is fine, I guess, but it is not an equitable tax on people that are living in this town. If I'm using 10 million gallons of water a year as opposed to somebody that's using their minimum, but paying the same fee.
You might be able to make the same argument for the transfer station fees that are just charged across the board regardless of usage.
Oh, there are some, because I just missed out on this one altogether.
Amber is showing us the actual ordinance. That what we did.
Yeah, well, I could go back and drag it up.
And it refers to the fact that the start was $5 per month. And I'm raising it to 10. So the
Then you're not gonna use the ad valorem tax at all to pay for this?
Certainly be our hope not to. The plan is to not.
the numbers show we would have to.
Okay, well, that's good. Property tax won't go up don't know how you're gonna do that on your tax collection with it going to the state. Cause if you don't put it in your state budget, it doesn't count against your, well, it doesn't count against the tax or the bond, total bond levy against the city anyway, because it's for public utility. Well, you've answered my question. Thank you for
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
your smiling faces up there.
Any other public comments? At this time, we'll move forward to proclamations. I'd be happy to read this, Larry, or if you'd like to read it, that'd be
I
fine.
think Matt could.
He just nodded and he said, let me, excuse me, I need to get to the appropriate, I'll just do it off the screen. Okay, proclamation. Whereas motorcycle riding has become a popular form of recreation and transportation for many people in Concordia, Kansas, and whereas in order to promote safety, there is a growing need for cooperation among drivers of all motor vehicles, and whereas it is especially important that drivers be aware of motorcycles on our streets and highways, and whereas during the month of May 2017, all street and highway users should unite in the safe sharing of roadways within the city of Concordia. Now therefore, I, Charles P. Lamberts, Mayor of the city of Concordia, Kansas, hereby proclaim May 2017 to be Motorcycle Awareness Month. We ask all motor vehicle operators to unite in this effort to keep our streets and highways safe as motorists and motorcyclists share the roadways of our city.
There you go. Okay. And Larry, you had made mention in regards to the Cloud County Community College street use.
You may need to authorize you to sign the proclamation.
Huh?
Or do you have them just there?
Says no motion is needed, but if we'd like a formal motion, we can.
I'll go with the city clerk's recommendation on that.
I think we all support that. I don't know if we.
I support that.
There's nobody against motorcycles.
Or are you signing it?
I appreciate that authority.
Right.
Yes, I did suggest to you before the meeting started that unless you had items that needed discussion with respect to the college's request to use a portion of Broadway Street for a barbecue and serve alcoholic beverages, they're honest, mentioned in their letter. Could you put that one on the screen, please? That we could just go ahead and do that now and save Mr. Bouchard from listening to the rest of our proceedings.
We require the high school students to stick around.
That's true.
No, he's got to get
This
to
guy
work,
has to
so it's okay.
So that's the request we're talking about, and as indicated, the college plans an event at the plaza on August 12th, and they seek two things from us. One is to block off with some sort of fencing Broadway Street directly east of the plaza from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. That's the area just exactly north of the plaza. The business across the street is closed on Saturday, so it wouldn't interfere with them. And then they also request that we allow alcoholic beverages to be served in that fenced area from 7:30 a.m. to 11 p.m. In order to do these things, three things are necessary. One is permission from I have authority to tell them they can use the streets. You need to pass an ordinance to give them authority to serve alcoholic beverages on a street. That ordinance is not before you this evening. We're just bringing this up to let you know, and we have time to bring the ordinance in another meeting. And the third thing they have to have is the appropriate permit from the Alcoholic Beverage Commission, and that is up to them to get. City staff sees no reason not to do this. If we're going to have barbecue cooks able to drink beer on the street beginning at 6 a.m. in the morning, might be an interesting barbecue. But, you know, be that as it may. Did you have any?
Well, pretty much everything in the letter is what we're hoping to accomplish in that event. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
And you plan on cleaning up then?
Yes.
Okay.
Who will it be that'll be in charge of checking the IDs to see if they're 21?
We'll have an adult there that will, when we do the wristbands or whatever method we derive to allow them into the facility, we'll have somebody there that will do that.
Will there be some security of some sort in that?
We haven't crossed that bridge, but we do have security on campus that we would probably employ to have down there.
Would
Well-
that be approved by the Concordia Police Department?
It's a good question. I
I
know,
mean, because
The use of
that's-
security or the use of,
Well, the use of security on city property.
I know in events we've held in Wichita before, that this, and certainly Officer Frederickson's here, could probably speak to that, but we would hire private security to keep things controlled within the fence, but we'd be coordinating with the Wichita Police Department for anything that might happen outside the fence. And with some good communication and collaboration, we had very few incidents that required intervention of either forces.
I think that's something you should really work out
sure.
with the police
I know that
department.
some of our security officers are off-duty Concordia police officers, so, yeah, we'll make sure that we coordinate with that, make sure that things are secure and IDs are checked and continually checked.
This is the first time we've done one of these in connection with the plazas, so try to be careful.
Yeah.
Account for all these things.
One of the things that, and the college gets to be, I guess, the guinea pig with this, and I don't want to overcomplicate it by trying to make it simple, but I would like to designate some sort of district to where we could engage this without having to go with a unique ordinance each and every time, but create some sort of form that different organizations or different groups could engage with the proper authority, with the proper approval, where we don't have to reinvent the wheel every time, but we have this identified from this alley to this place, and maybe we,
Just, sign off. Let me see if the state statutes will let us do that, I'll check that out.
That's a good idea.
Well, I'm pretty excited about it, Matt. I mean,
Mhm.
you know, this, when we were putting together the Broadway Plaza, this is the type of events that we were thinking of. And I think that will be a good way to get new kids coming into town with the college, people that are not familiar with Concordia or Cloud County, a chance to really see what the downtown's about. And I think it's a pretty good idea myself.
I think the biggest challenge is going to be having a good time but not having a mess.
Yep, control, because you're being open spaces. It's not like you're in an enclosed area, because it's open. So you're gonna have people drinking inside and taking the streets and then back on. So, like Laurie said, this is our first time.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think it's a great idea, but I can't overemphasize the control and the coordination that's gonna have to be done, at least the first year, till we get a better feel of it.
But we certainly want to get it right.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
security and oversight's going to be a big component
Yeah.
of that.
Hey, that's why we built it, to get people downtown. I think this is what you're doing. It's a
Yeah.
good idea.
Agreed.
You bet. Just work out the details.
Are you guys thinking of having, I know there's a tent available for use. Just the one thing I'm thinking with it being August 12th, it can be really hot and maybe some shade. And, you know,
Yeah.
if I remember right, alcohol dehydrates you, not hydrates you. I'm not sure on that one myself.
I keep
but,
testing that
Yeah.
theory, and I don't know.
Yeah.
Can't remember.
But,
I've heard that.
just something to think of.
And may want the rescue squad nearby
Yeah.
and on call.
And on behalf of the commission, I would like to humbly submit my application to be a judge, if such services may be needed.
We'll check that out for conflict of interest.
I second
that in my
one.
notes.
Or you can put him down for checking IDs.
I've held that position in my life before too, Sam.
So Matt, it's not clear to me, are you going to be selling alcohol or will this be one of those BYOB events?
Well, we're thinking that some of the donated alcohol, if we can get that, would be part of a wristband payment or admission type of thing. we're still trying to work through what the legalities are. We are going to operate under the law, city law, state law, whatever it requires us to do. And Heather could probably speak a little more eloquently to this because she's been the one making those phone calls and finding out. But in some fashion, it'll either be part of that wristband deal, or it'll just be BYOB. But I think we're leaning towards, it's a fundraiser, so we're hoping to capitalize on some of those.
Sell tickets.
So do I.
Is it all, and as, I don't know if it says in the letter, all the proceeds from this event, any that we make are going to scholarships, 100% of it.
I'd rather see you sell the alcohol and give it away, because then you got problems.
Yeah.
Free booze.
Yeah, yeah, it's, like I said, it would be encapsulated in the purchase of that admission bracelet or whatever method we use to identify the adults.
A lot of that seems to be dictated by liability and what you'll be able to do, and so it may not be so much. It'll be interesting to see what choices are available as opposed to this is your choice,
Yeah.
this or
Yeah.
not.
Well, and Sam brought up a good point there. I mean, if they're having to pay for each beer, it might limit them overindulging, whereas if you pay a price just to get in and then unlimited beer, if they drink for that long, say they start at 9 o'clock in the morning, that you could have some.
Yeah, and it wouldn't be unlimited. We would, just like our college auction, we ran out of alcohol at 10 o'clock. I mean, there'll be a finite amount. So we'll,
But again, you're looking at closed control factor versus open.
yeah,
And that's a big difference.
yeah, that's it, and I'll note that. So,
What day does school actually start then this fall?
the 20th, I believe, that's the first day of classes. They'll be moving in. Prior to that, big move-in days, and there's orientation things, and the classes, I believe, start on the 20th. But we'll have all the soccer teams, all the cross-country teams, volleyball teams will be there.
All your fall sports are going to
Yeah,
be.
all fall sports check in
You
early,
can-
anywhere from the 1st to the 5th of
You
August.
could also rent some time on the screen and play
Yeah,
your
yeah.
athletic.
I got my
and
sports
so-
information director,
You bet.
he's got a big project.
So it'd be a
But,
revenue.
Videos of games and highlight videos, and
Yeah.
we've got a lot of information to share.
Good.
I really think it's got a great potential. I think that you're doing a lot of the heavy lifting by setting the form for this, but I really think it could be a good model for a lot of other,
Yeah.
hopefully, agencies and organizations to follow.
Well, when in the discussion of, we normally have our golf tournament in August, and we needed to add another event, so we decided to move golf tournament to the spring, and so we were talking about this event, whether we do it on campus, so on and so forth, and I believe it was Heather said, well, how about Broadway Plaza? And we're like, immediately, everybody's like, yes. So,
Well, I think it'll be a nice way to get the students exposure to more of the town, whereas if it's just out at the college, so I'm excited about it.
yeah. Okay.
The next meeting will bring you either an ordinance to specifically permit this event, or if it's workable, maybe an ordinance to just make this administrative so we don't have to do this.
Sounds good.
And we'll learn a lot as far as putting it, maybe not next time, but
Yeah.
after that, after they go through it once, you may want to have all the details that you need to put down
True, we
Yeah.
can
and control and everything else. So that'd be even better yet.
Let's do the customary ordinance this time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, if there's no further questions, I appreciate your time and your consideration for our event. We're very excited.
Looking forward to it, Matt.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we'll return to new business, the utility department vehicle.
I got two bids, one from Chevy, one from Ford, to replace the 1999 extended cab. And going through the bids, the transmission, everything was met, basically. On the tow package, heavy duty on the Chevy, it says it has a check for heavy duty, and that is actually just a normal tow package that they put on Chevys. Same way with the Ford, it says light, trailer hitch and light plug. That's just a standard that they put on all half tons. And then the transmission or the gears for the Chevy, it met the 342, but that 342 is a standard for a tow package also. And the Ford was 373, and that's standard for a tow package, but it's outside the 342 and 355, which is what we're gonna be using it for. It won't matter. That's, like I said, standard for a tow package on F-150s, half tons.
So do you recommend we take the low bid?
And I recommend the low bid.
I like Ford.
Yes, the other thing, it's not he wrote down a super cab for a Ford F-150, and I happened to catch him in the city hall here, and he actually bid a regular cab, and that's what I want.
Okay.
And no
Not the
trade-in.
super-
Yeah,
Trade in
I'd
on
like to
Ford.
just get rid of the Ford, the trade-in to them.
Okay.
I don't think we're gonna get much more than that.
No, it's pretty far gone.
650, that's not bad.
Okay. Well, I'll move to,
I wouldn't feel comfortable trying to sell it to an individual on Purple Wave. Just
Everybody
say
here
that.
lives in town.
I'll move to approve the purchase of the 2017 Ford from Womack Ford for $23,478 with the trade-in.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Parker and seconded by Commissioner Pounds to approve the purchase of the 2017 Ford from Womack Ford for $23,478 with trade. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeremy. Moving on to the demolition projects.
Mayor and Commissioners, I have a couple applications to properties to be on the demo program. And we're all familiar with the 603 East 7th was severely damaged by fire a month and a half ago or so. And she applied to be on the program, and the lowest bid on that was pretty high, so the maximum payback will go to her if it's accepted. The lowest bid was $86.57, and then on the other one, this is a house that Marcia Doyen owns on West 9th Street, 213, and there was a little bit confusion on the bid on that, but she was such a hurry because I think I've got 8 demo applications out in people's hands right now, and I've told everybody it's a first come, first served, there's not much money left. And so Marcia Doyen actually faxed this demolition requirement sheet to Brandon Jensen, and he just signed it and put his bid on the bottom of it, so that's where that 5,500 is. If you look at the right there, and he just went ahead and signed. That's what we make all the contractors or owners sign before they demo a house, because we have to make sure all those requirements are met anyway, and he knew it. He's bid the job before. I think he's only ever done one project here, but he threw that in as the bid, and I called him up to confirm it and make sure he knew what he's doing, and he said, fine, yeah, he knows, he's okay with it. So what I recommend is, and I'll have to, we have about $3,700 left. I've got a project that was approved last December, and there was some confusion with the low bidder, and they had to go get another one on 104 Strain. That house has not been removed yet, so they haven't requested their money, but their money's there reserved for that, and what's left over in my demo budget is around $3,700. I have $88,500 in a professional services line that I believe I can use to make up the difference, and it'll leave me about 3,700 left in that professional services line.
So fill me in a little bit on this, 'cause this program's new to me. It doesn't make much sense to me.
Okay?
They still own the property.
Yes.
So they collected any insurance because of the fire or
Some
anything
may,
else?
some do, some don't.
Okay, so is the city, the money the city puts out, are they reimbursed by these people for this?
No, the program is a reimbursement program, and it's done through the owner. And the reason it's done through the owner is because the owner is responsible for paying the contractor and getting the bids. We don't care who they get the bids from, as long as the contractor can meet our requirements. What the program was set up to help people remove blighted and damaged structures. And the problem we had before, when we were forcing condemnations and things, people wanted to be able to take it down themselves, but we had requirements for them to hire licensed plumbers to cut the alley and do the cap. And then they had, and then it ended up $1,200-1,500 there, and then if there was gas involved, then they capped it at the main. So it was very difficult to get cooperation, basically. And it would take years and years and years, which is still the case in some cases, to get the house down that was a blighting influence on the neighborhood or an unsafe and dangerous structure. And what we did was try to do a thing where we could share the cost, because if we condemn it and force it down, we're paying all the cost. And then we have a bunch of loopholes to jump through with the state.
So what percentage are we paying and they're paying?
Up to 50%, but no more than $4,000. So it's 50% no matter what so on this $5,500 one, we'll only be paying $2,750 back to that owner. But they have to bring us a paid in full receipt from the demo contractor before we'll reimburse them, and that has to be approved by you before the checks go out on the appropriation.
Then at 6:03, we'll pay our
So if we have
4,000.
a 10,000, 11,000, we've had a couple projects, $12,000 to tear down, but they only get $4,000 back, minus the way the ordinance was written and the contract's written, minus the.
So they pay first though.
They pay first.
And if they don't pay, then what happens?
I've never had that situation
Well, you
come
just
up
told
yet.
me, sometimes it takes years and years and years to
No,
get
on a
people to pay.
condemnation, that's on a condemnation.
Okay,
No, on a demo program.
It just
as
takes
soon as
years
I get
before
the
you-
application, the first thing I do, because on the contract that they sign,
Mhm.
when they apply for the demo program, there's a highlighted, if you roll down about 3 on the application, or up, keep going, right? No, one more. The application, that's the agreement, right there. By my signature, I'm claiming ownership of the above property and authorizing the city of Concordia to enter and inspect the same. So I've had people try to get something on the demo program that didn't really qualify. It wasn't what the program was intended for. It's happened twice. And in one case, they kicked the renter out and came and applied for a demo program, but it was a co-op, and they want, and I said, I can't do this. It's a perfectly habitable house, nothing wrong with it, but they wanted to tear it down because they wanted to build something else for their business. And they had an idea of doing a drive-through lane to get to their new scales, but they ended up doing some lease agreements with other properties, and now you got them long lines going behind the businesses, kind of along the tracks there. And that was one of them, but, so, I have to make sure, and I tell them, I have to make sure it qualifies. And it's not very hard to get, to convince you through photographs and my reports that it does qualify for the program.
but let me take a step back.
Okay.
A little slow on this. So before the demo's done, they pay.
No. We
Well, maybe.
accept them into the program.
Okay,
Then we allow them to go ahead, we tell them that they're accepted in the program and that they can have and we're gonna pay them back based on the lowest bid. They don't have to use that contractor. We're not paying the contractor. That's between the owner and the contractor. Sometimes they don't use the low bid and they're willing, because we're paying back based on the low bid. Then the contractor has to come to me and get a demo permit, and we have to make sure as soon as we're accepted, it kicks in. I email all the utility companies and tell them, including Jeremy, and have them cut the utilities, and in some cases, that's been done years ago anyway. Usually the gas is an issue and electric can be, but the water and sewer is an issue. And then I have to do a title search, because we have to be sure that we're covering all our bases, and that's $125, and that actually comes out of their reimbursement, and it says that in the contract. And then the contractor comes to me when he's ready to tear that house down, and the one on the fire damage one, he says he won't be able to get it till about the end of May, so we're gonna have to be patient on that, which some of the neighbors aren't being so patient, but then they have to come to me to get a permit. I give them the permit, and then they got 30 days from that point to tear it down and clean
Okay.
it up, and I have to inspect the empty hole that they've removed all the, and we give them free dirt, but they have to haul it. We cap the water and sewer for them for nothing, and then the gas company has been kind enough to work with us that if they want it capped at the main, because they're gonna abandon the property or they don't anticipate something using gas going back in, they've been working with us on that, and a lot of times we can share the same hole in the alley where we don't have to patch two holes, you know, if it's the case. And then after that, once I sign off that it met all our demo requirements, when they bring me a paid in full receipt from the contractor, then that's when I write up my little memo for you, and they have to wait till the next appropriation ordinance before they get their reimbursement check.
So then they do pay the contractor first,
Yes,
they'll pay him in full.
they have to pay their contractor in full, and that's sometimes a point of contention, because they want to pay the contractor 50% and then come and get our
Right.
money and then go, and we don't do it that way. And sometimes it's, but I have to remind them, this is the way it's written in the contract. I gotta have a paid in full receipt, or you don't get any money from us.
So in essence, fire the house, it burned down. I could collect all the insurance on it. And then when I went to rebuild it, I'd say, okay, city, you pay 50% of me cleaning it up. And then I can build a new house on it, and I save money on my construction, and I save money on the insurance I have.
It's a different deal if there's the
If it's
insurance.
insurance, yeah, there's a whole nother set of rules that kicks in, because we get to hold some of that money. I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's all right. Well, we're both probably gonna say the same thing, but since I started. So, for example, on the item you had on the agenda on the appropriations this evening, refunding money to the Womack family, that was a house that burned down and had insurance. And if they have insurance, then the insurance they have must be applied to the demolition, and we
The
get.
total amount, or just,
We get an amount that we keep as security from the insurance proceeds. By law and by our ordinance, the insurance company, if the house burns down, is required to pay us a percentage of the insurance proceeds. And then we hold that until the house is demolished or repaired, as the case may be. And then if it should not be, that's why we're holding that, so that we could use that money to go in and demolish. So, for example, say, in a similar matter to the one we had this evening, we had a landowner, their house burned down, they had insurance, we got the $7,000 from the insurance company, landowner didn't do anything, we had to go in and demolish it, would use that $7,000 to pay the demolition. So if you have insurance, no, we aren't paying people twice. If they have insurance, it has to be applied to the demolition if that's what they're going to do. In this case that we're looking at, they didn't have any insurance, and that's why they're proceeding.
on both these? There was no insurance on both of them?
Well,
No.
on the other one, it wasn't a fire, they just have an old house.
They just have an old house that she bought apparently, and I didn't realize this, but she said it was a meth house or something years ago, and they couldn't get it cleaned, and so she just bought it for the parking lot for her apartments next door. And now I think she's got something going on with the other person that owns the other apartments, and I think they're gonna share that lot, split the parking, so they can just use it for parking.
So that was
at the
just a
house.
bad investment on her part, without checking it out.
Well, it depends on what she
No,
paid
she
for
just
it.
bought
Well,
She
yeah,
bought it for
but
the
still, it
parking
comes
lot.
down to it, that was a private investment that she
Yes,
made.
it was.
And it would, turned out bad, so she wants the city to pick up at least 50% of the demolition.
Yes,
And then she's gonna use that for a parking lot
yes,
and benefit from it.
yes.
You see, that's what I don't follow.
But
Well,
a
the
blighted
city
house,
also
the
benefits.
whole plan is, we have a blighted house in our community that gets eliminated. And I
Yeah,
think,
that's
yeah,
the benefit of the city.
You gotta
The-
consider that. I have a question. At the 603 7th Street, I think there's a garage and some other buildings on the lot. Now,
Just
do they all get
attached.
eliminated, or does just
Well,
the
that's
house?
something we have to work out on that, and I talked to Jensen about it, but there's also trees and things you have to
That's
consider.
my next question.
And, I told her we're gonna come in, me and Ronnie can come and assess that, and, and Brandon Jensen's aware of it. We try to make the contractors aware of what they're doing, because sometimes you have to take a tree out of there, and I think it's all coming out of there.
Okay.
And a few strategic trees. I know there's a couple of trees along Archer Street that I've gotten complaints over the years, because when you're stopped at that stop sign, you can't see oncoming traffic because of those trees. And she has trimmed, we've written her nuisances on them before, and she's trimmed them up a little bit and stuff. But,
So
yeah,
there's a little
we
bit.
always go in there and assess if there's dead trees or something, we'll have them come down. But a lot of people wanna save their trees if they're gonna build back, or, you know, there might be a good shade tree or something, so we'll just assess that individually. And sometimes you can't, like on a property like this, it's hard to assess. You know, it's such a mess, basically. But they didn't really have any detached accessory buildings. That lot split. North of that is a nice little brick garage with a fence separating. That's a separate little lot. But the north side of that had a little storage shed that was permitted as a detached storage shed, but somehow it got attached to the house over the years with a little roof system and stuff. But that shed is beyond repair, in my opinion. I think it's all coming out of there.
Well, that'd make it look a little.
Yeah,
Nicer.
well, I've also heard on the street that they're gonna rebuild back in that same spot. So, I recommend that we accept both these in the program.
I have one more question. A couple of meetings ago, you brought to our attention some homes on West 8th Street. It'd be like just a block from where I live.
429 West 8th.
Yeah, that were right next to each other. We didn't act on those, did we?
No, we're waiting for the Wells
Wells Fargo.
That's next. So there's
Oh, that's the
2,000.
Wells Fargo.
And the status of Wells Fargo is we got the money last week, we haven't got the deed yet. So they paid us, this is one of those houses, this is Wells Fargo house, and they offered to give us the house plus $10,000.
Right,
We got
okay.
$10,000. We've done all the paperwork, but the deed hasn't currently at the courthouse.
Okay, so that will take care of the
That will take care of
demolition.
one. Yeah, and the $10,000 will take care of demolition and probably more. So we'll get it done and see if we may be able to apply that to some other demolition. The house next to it also is in very good shape, but it hasn't got to a point where we,
And it's still in private ownership?
Yes.
Okay.
But the Wells Fargo will be our house.
it'll be our property.
Okay.
It'll be our house.
So we're
Call
gonna
it
demolish.
Well, still, our property.
Yeah, we're gonna throw out the lot and then we'll see what things look like and then see what we can work out.
Chief boss, he wants, we're trying
No,
to find
we're
a
not
house
going-
out in the middle of nowhere.
We're not going to burn the house.
He wants everyone to get everyone
We're
to
not going
see.
to burn down the house for practice.
Well, I'm sorry I brought it up, but I did happen to go by those homes and,
On West 8th.
yeah,
Yeah.
The
they,
one furthest
need
to
to-
the west is the one that we will own here soon.
yeah.
The whole point of, I think, this is, you know, we're trying to get rid of blighted houses, we're trying to get rid of unsafe houses. And as long as I've been on the commission, you know, I've seen a real big difference. I mean, there's still a lot of work to
It's one of the
do.
most positive feedback things I do with the city is my demo program. I get a lot of positive feedback from that. Like I say, I got 7 or 8 applications out there right now. And I believe it's a very good partnership, because before we started this demo program, thanks to Mark Skiles, remember that short term deal, he's the one that came up with it, because he's wherever he was before. Because the cost of doing it yourself as an owner is very, you know, it's just, they just let it sit there and crumble, and if we condemn it, fine, condemn it, take it from you, but you're gonna spend $8,000-10,000 on your own, and then you're gonna have to jump through all these hoops and report to the state, especially if you do more than 1 or 2 a year. And, you know, do we have hazardous materials in there and stuff? But the state laws exempt individual owners from tearing down their own house from having to jump through both of those hoops. That's why we call it a reimbursement program. We work through the owner. And that's that's the way it was explained to me on the legal side, and that's the way they set it up with the contract and everything, so that it would work. And I would say that, I believe, I haven't updated it lately, but in 2007, we started that program, and I think there is something somewhere around 80 houses that we've removed under that program. And some have even purchased homes at the sheriff's sale so they can get rid of them because they're right next door to them, and they want the property for a bigger yard, and they you know, the owner's just basically abandoning it, and it's not making them any profit. So I've had people call me before a sheriff's sale and say, hey, I'm looking to buy this house or that house or this house or 3 of these houses. Will they qualify for the demo program? And I pretty much know them, you know, and I say, I can't get on there fast enough in my opinion. So I think it's a successful program. I think it's a very, you'll get a lot of bang for our buck on it. You know, if we condemn these houses, we're paying for the whole cost. Now, Ronnie says we're gonna run out of dirt pretty soon, and that's gonna be an issue but we did get a bunch of dirt from the school FEMA project that he hauled up there. It's pretty good topsoil, but there are several truckloads up there they gave him, so that gives us a little farther to go with backfilling.
Well, I'll move to accept 603 7th Street into the demo program based on Snavely's excavating bid of $8,657.50.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Pounds, and seconded by Commissioner Hash to accept 603 7th into the demolition program based on the bid from Snavely Excavating, $86,5750. Is there any further discussion with this one? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Well, I'll move to accept 213 West 9th into the demo program based on the bid from Brandon Jensen for $5,500.
Second.
So moved by Commissioner Parker and seconded by Commissioner Hash to accept 213 West 9th into the demo program based on the bid from Brandon Jensen for $5,500. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Jump in there anytime.
Moving on to ordinances, 2017-3120 zoning for 500 State Street.
This is, what the camera shop down there was on the TIP program at 500 State, and Bryce and Destiny Bowers want to do some work on that, and they wanted to put up a sign, and I got to investigate, and it turns out the zoning's not correct. I don't know how that ever slipped through the plane, through the TIP and everything, but I thought, we just want to get it right so we can work along and get the right signage and how much signage you can have and things like that. So we, went through the zoning change process. It's pretty simple. It's a little corner lot. It ties right in with the downtown district. We don't have to worry about off-street parking in that area with the C4 zoning. It'll meet everything. The only thing I did discover was, the property is 62 feet long and the building is 63 and a half feet long. So he's got a little encroachment there on the north side. And we've talked about that. He does have a pole sitting out in the right of way that he's gonna have to move that day when they did the TIF district and put that paving in, nobody caught it. So he's gonna have to move that pole back, and he wants to put a sign up on top of that pole, like, he's got a conduit going out there, but he's kinda on hold until we get through this and make sure, and then we'll come back in and start doing the sign permit. And he's also got approval to change the original, downtown improvement grant money that he got to redo that building, and some with the stucco, it looked like a camera that they had, we're gonna stucco that whole building, but they can't afford it, so he's gonna go back with a colored metal of some sort. But he's got a real estate license now, and he wants to run a brokerage out of there and have the other part be for his wife's camera. It's kind of more of a hobby now, because she's got a regular job that it was gonna be.
But he's going back in with colored metal? I thought we were trying to eliminate that.
Well, some sort of, it was approved, we talked about it, and he had to go back through the committee. So I don't know if he got it approved, but when I talked to the committee, they sound like it wasn't
the downtown improvement program committee you're talking about?
Yes, Eric Johnson, Eric and two, three others.
Now, Bruno, when we originally did this, it was under her name, the TIF.
Yeah.
Now, with it being in their names now, does that make
Well, I
any
think it's still
difference?
under her name, cause I told him, I said, is she, you got her permission to do this? Because, and so he's acting as the agent, basically,
Okay.
cause it says owner or agent, you know, on most of the
Okay,
applications.
didn't know if that mattered or not.
If she called me up, beats me on the head and off for allowing this to happen, but I've talked to her on the street. She just kinda, why do we have to go through this?
My question is, while these things I think have an impact in this other realm, does this really change the discussion about the zoning of this particular property? Looking at this particular property, it doesn't make much sense for it to be a medium-density residential. It makes a lot of sense to be the commercial.
Yes, that was changed, that whole block was changed in 2000, when basically, a couple of years when Wendy Lee was hired here as community development director before she hired me. And before I got into the zoning side of things, I can remember we did a massive zoning change and comprehensive plan under Wendy Lee, and it was just, I was just catching the tail end of that, and we were basically going from the old maps that just had lines, and we were going to the color-coded maps and things like that, and Wendy in her fresh out of school mind, I believe, felt like everything had to be their order, you know, this is a block of mostly residential, so we're zoning it residential, but there was two businesses on each end, and then, and that's the way it went. So the successive comprehensive plans, we've set up our future land use map for along the highways where they could go either way. And you could have multifamily residences there, which is the case there, and then we had one zoning change for Daniel Memorial, so they could have their little business in there. But on both ends, there was a business, so now it's, you know, about 60% business and 40% residents on that block. So it's one of those deals where a lot of things were built, you know, back in the beginning stages of Concordia, and things were expanding out, and it was laid out to be a business, but then houses got put up, you know. Then when zoning came along, what do you do with those places? You know, you got a business right next to a house, you try to work them in if you can, and I told him, I said, you know, everything he wants to do in that is allowed under our home-based business rules, Article 17 of the zoning regs, but it's not a home. You know, it's not a residence, so.
And it wouldn't qualify as a
And
residence.
it doesn't make sense for it to be a residence.
Right.
You know, he'd have to put a bedroom with an egress window and a kitchen, you know, it just doesn't make sense for it to be residentially zoned. And you know, you kind of feel guilty about making them go through the process and paying the money, but.
It's zoned this and it needs to be
$75
zoned
fee, and
this.
it costs us $93.
Do they have to get permission from their neighbors? 'Cause
Yes,
that-
there's always a public hearing process. We always have to go through the process of, I have to get an official map from, Ken Johnson usually does them, but now with our new mapping system, I'm getting to where I can do it. And we have to send a personal letter to everybody, every property owner within 200 feet of that property. And say, this is coming, public hearing's on this day. And then we have to put a public hearing notice in the paper 20 days in advance of the public hearing. And then we go through the public hearing, and then there's a 14-day protest period before we can present it to the city commission. And the protest period is to allow the property owners in the notification area, if 20% of the property owners sign a petition, then it makes it go from a majority vote at the commission level to a super majority vote at the commission level. And that's happened a couple of times at mine.
What's the difference between a majority and supermajority?
3 or
Versus
4.
4.
Okay.
Majority is just 3 have to vote for, a supermajority is 4 have to vote for.
And all those things have happened in this.
Yes, we've had,
Cited in the ordinance.
supermajority 3 times, we've had to go to supermajority, and 1 time we couldn't get to supermajority.
What I meant to express was, in this case with the ordinance you have, the notice has been given, the hearing's been had. the
Yeah,
time to
yeah,
appeal
it's
has
all in the
expired,
ordinance.
and that's all we cited in the ordinance, so that's how they come to it.
You know, my only problem with this, I feel a lot better if you had a letter from the owner saying that she was for this instead of this hearsay through an
No,
agent?
I talked to her.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
you've
I-
talked to her
I
and
wanna
this is
make
good.
sure that,
I hate
you
to
know, it's
approve
one
it,
of
all of a
those
sudden she
things
comes back
because
and says, when do you approve it?
that
I
can't
never
happen
said,
where the spouse, one spouse is doing something the other
Right.
spouse is not aware of.
right.
Actually, on the protest.
Well, then they can come
petition-
see me.
On the protest petition there,
You can go to jail.
on the actual protest.
For professional
petition for
services.
these things, that every owner on that deed has to sign that protest petition, husband and wife. And they have, but all signatures have to be notarized, and that can be, you know, pretty tough for some, you know, 3 or 4 property owners don't want that to happen. You know, they gotta go around, get a notary, they gotta have both, every name on that deed, you know, signed and stuff. But that's their burden, and it can happen.
Well, I like the fact that we can control what sign they want, you know, want put up or anything like that. I'll go ahead and move to approve ordinance 2017-3120.
Second.
So moved by Commissioner Parker and seconded by Commissioner Pounds to approve ordinance 2017-3120, the zoning of 500 State Street. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Moving on to the manager's report. Thanks, Bruno.
I don't know if we can rotate that. Okay, so we have a little billboard north of Belleville that we've been renting for the last year and a half or so for $50 a month. And it's gonna be changed, so this is what's gonna be on it now. I made a road trip to Texas a few weeks ago and noticed 2 or 3 places along the line where communities were advertising their dog parks. So thought this was done in-house by our own Kelsey Larson. So it'll be north of Belleville, and you'll see the sign as you go down. Just thought you'd be interested to see it. I don't know if it's up yet. Doesn't cost us anything to make the change. So,
I like that. I think, anyway, we can promote the dog park. You know, I know a few years ago, we put up the better sign and stuff. You know, I have a dog park at my restaurant too. I think at least people think it is. But, you know, it's one of those things where I have to be careful because I don't want to chase off a potential customer.
well, this would about be the
But,
same directions. Maybe
yeah.
that's what they think.
Yeah, maybe they just stop there.
So at any rate, I just thought you'd be interested to see the cute little sign she made. Next thing, the notice to proceed, please. This is on our wastewater treatment plant. This is the official notice that was given actually yesterday, or May 1, Monday, to the contractor to proceed. And as the dates say down there, that the date of substantial completion on this project is April 10, 2018. Date of readiness for final payment is May 10, 2018. So they have basically a year from now to get it done. These are how these things are done under our big contracts. When the engineer is satisfied that all the paperwork is in order for the contract, and they issue this notice. So this allows the contractor to actually start placing orders on the equipment, which is the next thing. We won't see any building activity out there, or not much, for several months, because there are things that are part of this they have to get ordered and made now before they can do much. At any rate, I just thought you'd be interested to see that we are formally started on that construction project.
Larry, what happens if, say they have some problems and it's not finished until August 10th?
Well, if they just don't get it done through no fault of ours or through nothing terribly unforeseeable, then you're into a late payment fee, for a penalty fee on it, which is, I think, $600 a day or something like that, several $100s a day on this. But things can occur. Let's say that the weather was just so bad that they couldn't possibly, or something happened that caused justified delay, then that gets worked out at the time by the engineers. So if the contractor has some snag like that, it's up to them to talk to the engineer and say, hey, this is gonna delay us, and then it all gets talked through and decisions made, whether that's something to allow extra time for or not.
Thank you.
I just thought I'd mention, I showed you a couple meetings ago, pictures of cracks on the side of the brown granite and on the inside of it. And we had a building inspector come up, and then he in turn recommended that an engineer. That's not it. We'll get to this picture in a little bit. He recommended that an engineer inspect the property, and that has happened. Structural engineer spent 3 hours there. He doesn't think that there's any earthquake damage, and he doesn't think the damage is particularly new, so that's good news. And we have that report now to back him up. So we just got that this past week.
That's great news.
Yes. He did mention, and we will probably need to look, that there might be a need to add some shoring on that end of the building, but it doesn't sound to us like it's any expensive thing. I expect we'll be hearing from the Brown Grant about that, but we'll see that it gets looked into in a timely manner, one way or another.
Sure.
Spending priorities, I just wanted to mention, we've had several things come up, and you'll have more next week being presented by various agencies that we commonly support in terms of budgetary priorities. And we've had discussions, for example, about the airport and other items that we might want to do. And I think it might be well for us to maybe have a discussion meeting about this. Amber and I could put together a list of the things that we're aware of, but maybe preparatory to the budget.
Yes, please.
To maybe either just set aside a study session on a commission meeting, or depending on how long the list is, maybe have an extra meeting in there somewhere, for you to establish what the budgetary priorities are going to be. We basically cleaned out the capital improvement fund last year, as you recall, in order to do the 18th Street and projects. So we will be refunding that with some money this year, and so this is a good time to say, okay, what do we want to start allocating that money for? Do we want to spend some money on the airport? Do we want to do this, want to do that? So we'll be getting some figures to you, but I think we will be asking you to just consider that in your own minds. Let's get a city commission list of what your priorities are, and then that's something we can go back to year after year. And this basically functions through the CIP, so it makes it, folds right into the budget process. But it's a lot easier to do that if we know in advance what you're thinking you want to allocate these things for. So I think that will be coming at you, and like I said, depending on how long the list is and what it seems like to us when we look at it, we may ask you to allocate some extra time to do that.
So would that be something you send out to us to fill out, or?
Yeah, or we'll give you a list of the things we know we've talked about or that we know about, and send that to you or provide you with it, and then whatever other priorities you may have,
Okay,
we can bring up like that.
very good. I like that.
When does the budget have to be approved by this year, I think?
Amber's going to be talking to you about the scheduling on that.
Like now.
So rather than me muddying the water, we'll just let her talk about it, if that's all right. And then just kind of in that thing, I wanted to mention too, sometimes we answer questions for you, such as, we had a commission request, well, what could we do about sidewalk improvement in town? And I went out and looked at some typical sidewalk we might want to improve and brought you those figures. That's not necessarily a suggestion we do exactly what we showed you. That's a response to your question. And I'd rather be proceeding as I suggested. Let's have a list that the city commission decides on of things you want us to work on, and then we can try and address that more methodically. And for instance, on sidewalks, that might include looking at the whole town and deciding what sidewalks be. So sometimes when we answer a question about doing something, that doesn't necessarily mean that we think we should jump right up and do it. It's not a recommendation, it's a information response. So I just want to make that distinction.
Makes sense.
Okay. Which gets us to our picture here, football field party. Could you maybe drop the lights a little bit, Stacy? And this is one of the questions you had, although I think we can answer this to the satisfaction of the authorities involved without spending much money. But what I'm showing you here is this is the football field. So there is the stadium seating. So this is west of the football field. This is Willow Street. We had a discussion about how at times when there are events at the football field, parking along here and along here is so congested that you can't really drive through it conveniently, and is a real hazard for emergency vehicles. And that kind of continues along past this and around by the country club in the same way. What you're seeing here is a plan that was drawn up in a preliminary way at the city's expense at the request of a couple school board members a year or two ago on what could be done to make parking there. And the city engineer did work out the yellow lines here you see are the number of parking spaces that could be built there, making allowance for handicap lanes, all that sort of thing. The price tag, lower right-hand corner, please, Amber, for the, she lost her. Okay, is,
I don't blame her.
yes. I start talking, Amber gets up. Okay, can you get over, it's about $100,000, there we go, $100,000 to do this. At the time we did this, we furnished this preliminary figure to the school board at no cost, but I didn't recommend that you do these improvements, nor do I recommend that now as a city priority. What the city staff believes should be done, and I've spoken to Superintendent Breeze, and he's discussed this with his people also, is we think that the east side of Willow Street adjacent to football field, right along here, should be designated no parking anytime.
I agree.
Football game or not, it's just no parking on that side of the street. And going around to, what's this, is it 13th Street around the corner? 13th Street in front of the golf course, on the golf course side, same thing.
I agree.
So I spoke to the school people about that. They're fine with this. I did a drive up through there this week during school hours, and they don't have cars parked there, the kids don't park there. And that would alleviate the problem so that you can get through there on the times when there are events going on. It's been a concern for a while. All that's gonna cost us is some no parking signs. Since this
Number
is
of headaches with enforcement.
enforcement, yes, as far as enforcement goes, I'll talk to the chief about this, but a lot of times if we're changing a long-held pattern or starting to enforce something in a way that's been different, we'll make a point out of giving warnings and
Sure.
that sort of thing to start with, and may have people up there, an officer up there enforcing things for game nights a few times until people get used to it. But ultimately, the enforcement here is to write tickets if people don't observe the no parking sign, the same way it would be for any other no parking area in the city. That being said, it's my recommendation, we just do this, and that ought to take care of the problem.
I think that's the best alternative, because when we looked at this a couple of years ago, I think there was quite a bit of frustration in really finding something that would work. There really wasn't any money to do that, and if I remember right, that was gonna be gravel, not concrete, right?
At least they were just marking off the spaces, so that's,
Yeah, I think that unfortunately it might be a little bit unpopular at first, but the safety is gotta be the most
safety
important.
and both for,
And
yes.
so I like the idea here.
Yeah.
It's also probably convenient for some people as a drop-off area, if you have that. So if you have someone who's has difficulty getting around, they want to go to a football game, that might be an easier place for them to get there rather than up the ramp that you have on the
I really believe the
north
people
side.
who live on the other side there is gonna appreciate that too, because before they can't even back out.
Yes, won't be
You
their
got
way.
people on both sides. It's just terrible.
Well, we'll put that up there and see what
Yeah.
happens with it, but that's our recommendation. Nobody at the school is objecting to it. They support it, actually, so.
I do think at some point, and I know that the budget is of significant concern, but I do think that there's an opportunity for some partnership here with the school and the city, and I don't know what that would look like, how that would break out, but I do think that moving forward, the plan that you're recommending will make that lane safer in the next coming years, but I think there's a good opportunity for some collaboration there.
Be nice to have that parking lot along there.
And you know what, you might even be able to bring in the college, because I know the college is looking to use that stadium for track meets, and looking with the school to go
So that
together,
is the
put
kind of
down
thing
a
where
new
we
track.
might go together.
$100,000 split 3 ways makes it a lot more.
Yeah,
And that would get, if we want to pave it, it's going to be, more than that. But still, yes, it's something we could certainly look at. But
Down
for
the
now, I
future.
think we'll just put these signs up this summer and let people get used to them before football season starts.
Yeah. The only other thing we may want to consider is maybe in the spot by the gate, maybe one of those signs could say a 4-minute or a 3-minute unloading zone.
Yeah,
My only feeling on that is some people with handicaps
yeah,
are going the game and it walks in level there. And then someone could drop them off and then they could go park their car somewhere
it's
else.
a good idea. So we'll see if we can identify that area.
Yeah.
I just noticed, though, I go, that's on my walking route, and on the other side, if you know, if you go
Go
to the
south.
south.
We go south on the.
Yeah, if you keep going south. I'm assuming that it was the school designated that to be a handicapped entrance, right where you're, yeah,
Right.
right over there.
There's a driveway.
Right by where
right?
you
Uh-huh,
drive.
where that drive is, and that's the handicapped entrance.
So that may be where we want to have that.
Uh-huh,
On those
yeah,
zones.
yeah.
Okay.
Because that's really the best place for somebody in a wheelchair to get and to be able to have access to the stadium.
That's a good point.
That's also where the ticket booth is.
Right, there's a
Right
ticket
there.
booth there.
Okay, so that would be the logical place then for.
For the loading zone.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay, great. Sounds good. Okay, that's all I had for you this evening, unless you have something for me.
Just one thing, I think we dropped from the agenda the last time, marketing our south development.
Yes, and we've been waiting, we had some landowners that were concerned, but they're not gonna be able to get back, to be on the next agenda.
Okay. I just thought, we made things easy for the city when we owned the Alco building and turned that responsibility over to Cloud Corp.
Well, that'd certainly be, and they've been very actively
Yeah.
involved in anything that comes up, so I'll get you the information that we have in mind, and it'll be in the next pack.
Okay.
Thank you, Larry.
Commissioner comments?
Good.
I got one thing. I've been approached by some people with businesses downtown wanting to know that if we, you go along downtown, sometimes you see the 2-hour parking. And their comments were, why do we even have those signs there when they're not enforced? And, it's kind of confusing. And gee, I really don't see why we need those 2-hour parking signs there. And I think it'd be a lot less confusing and people couldn't gripe about it because the car parks there all day. Because some people that own other businesses will just park there. And then someone other in business gets upset for I don't know why. But I think it'd be a lot easier if we just remove those signs and just let, parking be parking in downtown.
That's an interesting subject, and it's one that we've had discussions on. Like, several years ago, there was a gentleman named Roger Brooks that came to town and looked at it, things you might remember. I think I recall correctly, that's what he recommended, was take out the 2-hour parking. The other thing you mentioned, though, is precisely the issue that comes up whenever this gets discussed, is you have merchants downtown whose employees will use this parking spaces.
Right.
And I hate to say this, you have merchants who will have their employees use somebody else's parking spaces.
I've got caught on that too.
So if you don't have some way to enforce a parking limit, then you're going to have people doing that. So that's the ins and outs of it.
But the fact is, we have the signs up there, but they're not enforced. So
We
why
don't
not
have
just take
anybody
them down?
doing
Yeah.
the
And they
marking
can't be
things.
enforced.
Well, we would
You
have
could
to have
walk by with
somebody-
chalk and you can,
Well, yeah, but then you got
You
patrolmen
gotta
that
pay
stand there
somebody.
with
Yeah.
chalk. That-
I've seen the day, I mean, we had that, the city had that at one time years ago, they had somebody.
Yeah, but that's
In
not
fact, I think my
efficient.
first visit to Concordia ever, I got a parking ticket. They used to have meters. Anyway, so that's the ins and outs of it, is if we don't have a limit, then that's the problem that's foreseen. Now, sometimes the problem that you anticipate doesn't really happen, and if we had cooperation from the merchants to say, we'll take these signs down as long as you do not have your employees parking here, but we'll put them back up.
But the problem is on that, Larry, is a lot of those employees of businesses are parking spaces to other businesses. And the fact is, there are no signs there anyway, so there's nothing you can do about that.
Yeah.
They make it just
Some of
should
this,
just
I
be
think
open.
I think we have bounced this by the Chamber of Commerce before, too, but I'm not sure I'm recalling that correctly.
I'll put it this way, if we have them, then we should enforce the law, and I think that's impossible. But to have them there, it's a joke, and not enforce the law, they have no meaning, and all it leaves is people to complain about it.
I think it might be good for us to hear from the merchants through the chamber
Okay,
and see what they think. How would that be?
I'd be fine.
in an effort to, yeah.
Well, like my dad used to, when he was alive, worked at for AT&T there in Lawrence, and the building they had where all their switches and stuff were it was just right by downtown, And I remember him talking about how every 2 or 3 hours, all the employees there would have to go out, move their vehicle so it erased the chalk, and then they'd just go back and park in the same spot, or if that was taken, just another spot. So there's ways around that too.
Mhm.
Well, that's a lot of lost productivity if you
Yes.
really think
Yeah.
about it.
Actually, it'd be nice to have it, bring the chamber involved, and then see about employees using the back parking.
Mhm.
Because we try to draw more people into town,
Well,
and we have less parking spaces for them, and they can't find spaces, that doesn't help.
You know, but there's also some psychology that the more cars that are parked downtown, the more business it looks like it's doing, even if those are
Half of
business
them
owners. Well, yeah, so if we have everybody who's parking away, then it looks more, I mean, there's more ample parking, which is nice, but it also looks more dead, and so you give the impression that it's not doing the
and I
business
have
that it
literally
could
no
be.
idea how many of these cars are people.
So, I mean, there's I think it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, and I'm in favor of cleaning things up that aren't necessarily enforced or there, and if it can clean up our downtown, so let's yank the signs, but getting the merchants involved and getting their input is probably the next logical step.
Let me do that, okay?
Sounds good to me.
I didn't have anything.
I don't have anything more.
The only couple things I had were, you know, we had talked before about maybe getting some of the information about the sidewalk repair and what might be there, and pool information, you know, different things there. So what I'm guessing, though, I think you've already answered, is that might be those might be good subjects for this discussion of projects, priorities at this later date.
Yes.
For a study
and
session.
some of these are things that we can afford to put some money toward. We do have a pool toy committee that was going to meet today, but we had one person absent, and we're looking at some things that, this is 2 members of our pool toy committee over here.
Who is responsible for the naming of this committee? Okay, so
So,
we might ask our media friends to be delicate with the discussion of this.
now, I don't know where your mind's going, Mayor Lambert.
Hey,
Because they're recreational structures, Larry.
Yes.
They're not just toys. I want to make sure that we're giving the gravity to these that they
Okay.
deserve.
And our Aquatic Recreational Structure Committee.
Thank you. I think that more accurately depicts the
Yes,
process
okay.
and the project
So,
ahead of
Nick,
us.
we got that, okay, so our Aquatic Recreational Structure Committee will probably be next week, and we are looking at some things that would be relatively inexpensive, but that might add to the pool's use and enjoyment, and it's also some different ways to talk about admissions and charges and that sort of thing. So we have all that we've kind of
Very
talked
good.
about, and the same way with the sidewalks, and we have different things that we've kind of talked about, but I think that would be exactly the kind of subject I'd rather just bring to you, and let's get a policy going and determine what kind of money we're gonna have, and try to give you some facts and figures in the meantime.
I think that kind of a discussion would be real prudent
I
and
think
helpful.
it'd also help if, in that list, that if some of your, department heads, like for structure and streets, or what other streets are in real bad shape,
Yeah.
and could be fit into a
Yes.
smaller budget, and, so we,
What do we need to have? for
exactly, so we
repair and,
continue on what we started.
We have, by choice and with discussion over fairly recent years, taken money that would otherwise have gone to street maintenance and used it to do some of our big ticket capital improvements. Those are done, so now it's time to kind of get back to business as usual on some of these things, and that's part of the,
Yeah, some of the smaller items that could be fit
and to
into a
start
budget.
setting aside money regularly for street repair that we have deliberately used and knowingly used for other things, but it's time to get back to the streets.
Thank you.
Staff comments.
A very wise man once told me years ago, it's a parking problem downtown's a good problem to have. But, the state's getting ready, their bids went out yesterday or day before on the state project out here, and I just found out today that maintenance facility is a go, and they've got bids, and, local contractors won a major part of some of those bids. They bid it in several pieces because there's several different things, and I was told by the architect that they weren't going to do the main office building, but I was told by one of the winning contractors today that they bid that main office building too.
Excellent.
Good.
I don't know if they're actually gonna start it, but I can't imagine you'd build a project and then wait a year, or bid a project and then wait a year to go. So, so that,
See.
you'll probably start seeing some pretty heavy activity out here in the next few. Contractors start mobilizing, they'll start digging.
Good.
Can you tell us what will be built out there, Bruno? I mean, besides the office building, what other structures?
All the maintenance, they've got this is a new design where they're going to have secure storage. So their maintenance vehicles, if they come in to reload with salt or something, there'll be like a key card entry for their gate, and that's all. Because I guess in some of their sites in the past, they've lost material late at night, you know, you see a pile of nice rock there along the highway, you know, and you got a little skid steer or something, you can take quite a bit of that in a little bit of time. So they're going with the secure facility for their storage area, but they're gonna be building their maintenance support, I think is what they call it, where they have the racks that they store their boxes on. I don't know if you ever noticed that, but their trucks are designed so they can put a salt spreader on it, and then they can hang it on a rack, and then they can put a flatbed on it, or they can do the interchange equipment on that truck. And then there'll be storage of materials there, obviously, you know, their paving and chips and that kind of thing. And then their main office building, they got a small office building, they got underground fuel tanks and fueling facilities, diesel and gas.
So refresh my memory again, what location is that
Out
going
North
east of the
Development.
jail,
to? Okay,
that
That's right.
state site there.
Um,
I can't remember how many acres, big site.
So we're talking a multi-million-dollar project.
Yes, yes. I think, well, one bid was 837,000, and that was about a third of the project, the way I understand it.
And KDOT engineer will be stationed there, do you think?
Hope so.
Someone we,
I don't think that's been decided yet from what I've heard.
Well, how would they build all that if they were just gonna have,
Yeah,
We're
from
talking
office.
state.
you know, well,
Well, years ago, you know, when they were looking at it, you know, Leland Tice was the local engineer around here, and we had a pretty good relationship with him, and of course, it was gonna be built, you know, in 2008, and then, you know, the state, you know, how their budget is. And, the idea, he told me the idea was they were gonna shut down 2 or 3 maintenance facilities around, smaller facilities like Scandia and Minneapolis and that, and bring, and I think it was the idea there was gonna be several new employees from other areas and actually increase their amount of employees, and this was gonna be like a main hub. But I haven't got that feeling because they were gonna do it in stages and just have, you know, some storage, but, so I really don't know what's going on now as far as what their plans are for shutting down other sites and bringing more employees here, or if it's hard to get a consistent answer out of the state sometimes over a period of time, because I think they change their mind, you know, based on politics.
Yeah, that's, Bruno, that's the same story we're getting at Cloud Corp. Just,
Okay, they don't know, you know, you hear one thing one week, and then, you know, I always was told this whole time, with the site plan and everything from the architect, that we're not gonna work on the maintenance facility, or the main office building is gonna be next year, or the year after. Well, the contractor that did the maintenance yard, storage yard, and all the facilities related to that, said they let bids on the main building, and a company out of Nebraska got that.
Well, tell them to hurry up because tax money's over now. And that could be the last time they're in the block for a long time.
What you call them.
Let me add that all of our information on exactly what we're doing is secondhand and unofficial. We do not have a role in this. This is state property. They are not subject to the city's zoning, building permit, subdivision, or any of those regulations, or building inspection, or our building codes. And we have verified with them that that is their expectation. Nobody expects us, or we have no jurisdiction to go out there and inspect their building or to inspect their site or any of this. So they're going to build what they're going to build. If they want us to come look at something, we're happy to, but they understand and we understand, and we have it in writing in an email that we have no jurisdiction and they're not expecting any of these services from the city.
Almost right. Zoning, they have to meet zoning. They have to have an industrial site. We can't let a state facility come in
As
and
far
buy
as
a
the
residential
buildings
lot.
themselves and all that.
They have to meet.
Well, and
zoning.
that, I'm sure they have a person that's in
Oh,
your
yeah, we've
capacity
been,
that.
you know, I've been working with them for 8, 9 months
we say they're gonna build this and they're gonna build that, we don't know that, we just hear what we
Any indication that they want city water
Yes, and gas.
And gas, good.
And gas.
and gas? Yeah.
But we haven't got the order yet for that.
Yeah,
So
right.
We'll know that when we hear it also.
That's good.
Maybe next meeting I'll know a little bit more. I've got a pretty good relationship with the contractor, so, and, he's always, and I'm thinking we'll come out there anytime. But, you know, they'll say, I've been here, I mean, listen to me, if I tell them what to do about it. And they don't have to, by law, so.
Jeremy, it's May. When do they start working on our weather towers?
He said mid-May.
Oh, well, it's almost mid-May.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got a letter from KDHE that everything was approved,
Super.
so they can come and start.
Well, every time I play golf, I kind of look up and see
Yeah.
that it's still dirty underneath.
Yeah, it's there.
We don't want you digging any golf balls off that.
I thought when they open it up, I'd go in and get some of mine.
Yeah. Our well operator picks all the stuff for me. 18th Street water line is completed today, so
Good.
they did their last connection today, tie in,
Yeah.
and they're just gonna clean up the rest of the week, and there's some old meter pits that they have to remove and stuff like that, but all the connections are made, all the service lines are in, and
We got that one house that got the oddball service line into the house.
oh, the odd size one.
They're not paying, they're not
Right,
on
right.
the city system right now.
Yeah,
You gotta
the
figure
house
that out.
hasn't had water in it for 10 years. I don't think anybody actually lives in there, but he's in there crushing cans and stuff like that, so.
Which house is that?
Second, it's right next, just east of Richard Palmquist. Second
Just-
house east of State on the north side.
There's no
Oh.
water in that house?
He doesn't, he's not hooked in. We've
Well,
got the
isn't
new
that
meter
John?
there, we just can't hook into his service line. It's an oddball
Yeah, it's
size.
a half
They
inch,
can,
What's his
they
name,
just don't
John?
have the right stuff yet.
I think so.
He's in there.
Anyway, that's the status of that, and I think they done a really good job and pretty quick, so. Just a lot of clean out, but they're gonna clean up, and the street guys are gonna come in and make another mess, so, just in time.
Jeremy, I've noticed the vacuum truck along 18th Street. Is that just regular maintenance, or
Yeah,
has there been?
he's trying to get his 75,000 feet done this year, so.
Okay.
He's up to about 20 already. Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess all I have to report really is that we've gotten through the team formation process, I believe. We've got rules out, we've got schedules out, so now I'm focusing my attention on getting some umpires lined up. So we have the clinic, I think I mentioned last time. We have 2 clinics next week, softball on Monday, baseball on Wednesday. So trying to recruit a new crop of umpires and get them trained and get them ready to get scheduled. So it's
Now, I heard there's a big tournament out at the ball fields this weekend, or something?
There was supposed to be one last weekend.
Okay, but.
It got rained out. They canceled on Friday with the forecast, and the rain had already.
Probably a good
gotten-
idea.
Yeah, I think they made the right choice. A little chilly.
Well, I remember waking up Sunday and okay, it's wet, it's cold, it's windy, but we had the good weather compared to most areas. We didn't
Yeah.
have tornadoes, we didn't have snow.
No 14 inches of snow, that's right. All right, thank
I
you.
had
Oh, yep.
comment from one of the coaches at the high school about the new, or the upgrades to the equipment in the batting cages.
Oh, okay.
The safety equipment.
Yeah, we've got some new L screens.
Yep. That's what he called them. I had no idea what that was, but yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
We did get a brand new L screen and then 2 new screens themselves. And then we also added a cage on a new net on the batting cage, because it had lots of holes in it as well. So.
So Chris, the L screen, what is that? Is that the thing that protects the pitcher?
Correct. Yeah, when they're doing batting practice or, usually they're a lot closer. And so they want to be able to duck behind the L screen, and we did have one of the coaches get hit last year, and so I know that was a concern. So yes, we got those fixed and upgraded. Thank you.
Thank you.
10:30 tomorrow, we have a meeting with J&K Contracting, the street contractor on 18th. He was in our office, I believe it was last week, talking about some things. He's still talking about May 15th moving in. And the first thing he's talking about doing is doing the storm sewer work, and that is at the intersection of Washington and the intersection of Broadway. And so far, the contract says he can shut off the whole job to traffic. He's talking about maybe doing it in pieces, but hopefully we'll find out tomorrow what that entails. I know that is a busy street. More than once, I've kind of not paid attention, just about walked out in front of somebody, but that gets a lot of traffic on it.
Is there a way to put maybe a kind of a detour sign up there? Because see, I use that street, well, you see me wave at you
Well,
about
that's
5
why we're
times a
blocking
day.
it off, so you can't come down.
But,
There is, but I mean, to really legally do it, we've got to do a lot of different signing and stuff. We are putting signs on 81 Highway to warn that there is construction and not allowing them to turn and go west on the street, but.
that makes sense.
And then, of course, at each street that's shut off, there'll be road closed signs and such as that, but, we're trying to accommodate the people the best we can. Most of them have access, I think all of them have access from the rear of their house and alleys, so. And
Well,
just-
and that, the one that might not be true is the one just directly west of Prairie Produce. I don't know that. 'cause I
Yeah,
used
right
to
now,
own
there's
that
nobody
house.
in that, I don't think, but yeah, and then the lady next to that to the west has a daycare. And we're trying to work with them on something with that, but.
It's
So,
just gonna have to be done. I mean,
I'm sorry,
well, just, I mean, we're just gonna have to figure, I mean, the road's gotta be made, and we're
Yeah.
gonna have to figure out a way to make it work.
what we're hoping is the rain stops, because once they get that tore up, it gets a big hole out there, and we might have a lake for a while, so.
Do we need clearance from the FAA for that? Is that too close to the pipeline?
It's within
We
2
can add it
miles.
to our dam project.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that one up.
Well, I don't wanna jeopardize our status with
The other job which we will be doing the inspection work on is the I'm not sure what the official deal, but the sidewalk out on the new dam.
Mhm.
And we have our go-ahead and start setting up documentation books and go through the plans and all of that. They have to tell us a certain date, because we can't do anything that we charge for before that date. We won't get paid for it. We unofficially talked to Bryant, and the latest starting date is July 31st. And every time we talk to them, they say it will be the latest starting date before we start. So we're talking probably August, starting on that project. They don't think it's gonna take maybe 5 to 6 weeks to do it, so. There's not a lot of grading work on it, so that would be the time-consuming part, so. We'll keep you informed on that.
Excellent.
While we're talking about that area, you might recall that several years ago, we were given a $20,000 donation by the late Laurent Brousseau to have a connecting sidewalk there, and we waited all this time in order to be in a position to do that. And I walked that ground with Bruno and Ken Johnson a couple weeks ago, and we figured out how we can basically start where she used to live, the house at the end of 11th, at end of Washington Street, and go in front of Pawnee Mental Health and Marquee Place, take a little doing, and then connect up with the trail basically there. I will have a contract from Campbell and Johnson on the next agenda to do the design work on that, and that would be paid as a part of the grant. We have their estimate. We could do all this with the money she gave us. So it's gonna take a little doing yet, but we're trying to get that done maybe and be in a position to offer that out to bid in time for the contractor who's coming to town to do the trail to join in the bidding if they want to.
That'd be great.
Budget stuff. So basically, the newest legislation moved up the date that we have to, not that we have to file the budget, but that we have to decide if we want an election. So by July 1st, we have to let the county know if we'll need an election to approve our budget. Would be if we want to approve basically property tax exceeding the previous year adjusted by the CPI, which is 1.4%. And then there's a whole lot of other items that go into that. So I just went to a budget training the other day and it gave a very detailed, and they have a spreadsheet and you put in all the different things. It doesn't account, like you can take out safety departments and debt and several other things. So there's a whole computation involved in it. I highly doubt we would need to have an election, but we're going to go with the plan of a somewhat set budget by the end of June. So if we could meet, they also moved up when I'll get the valuations from the county by 2 weeks. So usually we get those at the end of June, so that we have our meetings in July. Now they have to be to us by June 15th. So if I got it on the latest date of June 15th, I am thinking maybe June 26th. Go ahead. Go ahead and flip the calendar. Maybe that June 26th. Because I would get it maybe on the 15th, and just so everyone knows, I'll be in Cancun through the 18th. And so then when I get back from that. So the 26th, 27th, 28th, somewhere in there.
To have the first meeting?
Yeah, because, like I said, I mean, I would assume we wouldn't need an election. If we're having problems and we think that we do, then we have, like if we did it the 26th, I guess, then we have a little bit more time. Well, really, it doesn't have to be done. We would just say,
We would
we're
just have to
gonna
give
need an
notice.
election, so we're
Yeah.
gonna tell the county that, and then you'll have a little bit longer to figure that out, because then the mail ballot election is September 15th.
So the meeting on the 26th might not be all that long.
Well, we could treat it like our first meeting, which would be long, yeah.
If we're gonna be here, I'd say let's,
Let's make it.
And
go.
last year, we did our meetings at 3 o'clock. I don't know if that's something we wanna do again, but that's what we did for 2 of our meetings last year.
with enough I mean, I can make my schedule work for that.
So June 26th at 3 PM.
How is everybody on that?
Yeah, that works.
I don't
And
think,
then what are we gonna set a date for the second one, or,
We can.
Yeah.
I mean,
Maybe-
what's the better way
Maybe
to
2
do it?
weeks later, because at that point, if we're not going to have the election, even if we are, I think that we have enough time. Like, usually we do the end of July, so I was thinking like the second week. Come on, Steve. I keep looking at May.
Well, 'cause I know I have, some Taco John stuff on like July 10th.
I was thinking maybe the 12th or something. I don't know, we usually do like Wednesdays, like.
They probably won't work for me. I think ours, it's, some manager stuff. Let me check my, I have an agenda at home, so I'll need to check it and verify. I don't know that I would be back for that, though.
What about, we've done it before where we started at 3, took a little break at 5 until 5:30, and just do it on the 5th of July.
Does that give you enough time?
I mean,
What's, the 4th on a Tuesday this
Yeah, the
year?
4th
Yeah.
is on a Tuesday.
usually our second budget meeting is Jeremy and capital projects. So I mean,
That would work for me, July 5th, and then I know for sure I'll,
but we are having a separate capital projects meeting, you think, maybe?
We'll get a list together, see if we need a separate meeting, we just do that in the study session.
Okay. Because, I mean, my thought is that that's still pretty early.
You
and
think
not
that's too early
necessary.
then?
I mean, I mean, it's going to be squeezing,
So
and
if we waited to the 19th,
I don't think that'd be a problem.
19th.
I'll be
Usually
doing
we
my
don't have
best
our-
Clark
last year we didn't have our
Griswold
first one till then.
impression, and I'm gonna be trucking our family
19th?
across the country, yeah.
The 19th.
I'm so awesome, I'm so looking forward to this thing.
I didn't hear you. What did you say?
I'm
don't
gonna
wanna
be,
So you're gonna be gone the 19th.
we'll be
it's
at
gonna
it,
be Chevy Chase.
we're gonna be vacationing,
Okay.
not to, as luxurious of accommodations as Cancun, but mainly parts west, heading to Wally World. That's right, I'm excited. Amber's dreading this, so she's
Maybe
terrified.
Christy Brinkley will drive by you again.
Yeah.
Okay, we're getting off
Okay.
track.
I'll be out of town for that 10-day period surrounding the 19th.
So
So,
when to when? Do you guys know what July is? I'm just.
I imagine
July.
we're gonna be
The
leaving the
commissioner
Thursday or
kinda like
Friday
July.
before and coming back the Sunday after. So I'm thinking the 14th to the 24th is where I'm anticipating being out.
So the 10th? Is that possible?
Well, that's the day Tim's got his managerial.
You know,
Oh.
I could probably make the 12th work.
Oh,
I
yeah,
just
because we were
need
talking
to
about the next week.
verify that,
Tentatively the 12th, and we'll verify that on the booking.
yeah.
And then otherwise,
The 12th,
so it would need to be the week before,
the 2nd?
Yep.
or else the 25th.
so we decided the 12th at 3?
We could do the
Tentatively.
26th, that's getting us a little late.
Let's just make the
October,
12th work.
August 25th, but I
I'll
didn't
figure
even
it
look
out.
at the last date that published it, and if it gives me the full back right now.
Okay, we'll look at we'll see what the alternatives are if we have to go later then.
Yeah. I'm about 80% sure the 12th will work now. I'm
You
just
might,
kind of
what you
thinking
might
about
do
it
with
some more.
Commissioner Parker is let us know, just give us a
Yeah.
call.
When I get home, I'll look, I know where my flyer is, and
So tentatively the 12th. at
I'll
3
email
o'clock.
you, Larry.
Thank you.
Yeah, come on down.
The whole budget thing still might change too. There are still possibilities in legislature to modify the budget.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, I just wanted to briefly mention that we took part in the DEA drug take-back program this past Saturday. And it's raining as usual, usually is on that, when we do that.
You know, you're right.
Yeah, seems to be that way. But we gonna send in a little over 30 pounds, so still did all right. So.
It's pretty good for a rainy day.
Yes, it is.
So do you guys have to guard that? No.
It's in a safe place.
Sure.
Don't tell Tim where.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else?
Stacy, when for somebody that wants to run for city commission, what are kind of the dates on that?
That's what I was just telling Amber. I wrote that down. We can do it now, I believe. I had to notify Sheila by May 1st. Normally, she gives me paperwork, so I need to get with her and see if there's any new paperwork, but she can take them now. I can't take them anymore.
Well, and you
That's why I don't
publicize
have
that in the
paperwork.
paper, don't you?
Yeah, and yes, that was another thing. I need to run an ad. So
When is the
I'll
final
find out.
deadline? Is it June 1st?
June
It's
1st?
early, yeah, it might be June.
That was my,
I thought June 1st.
sounds familiar.
Yeah, and then there's if they need a primary, that's in August, and then the general elections, in November, right, okay.
Party politics. Any other staff comments? It's my understanding that the study session is no longer necessary, so, okay. At this time, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Sacco. Need a second? Second by Commissioner Parker to adjourn the meeting.